welcome back to Multimagic channel. Previously we have been discussing about some modules, preview management module, navigation customization module and all. But in this video we are going to talk about another interesting module, that is navigation builder module. Okay, so as you all know that we are following this sprint mechanism. So in sprint one of the team is going to focus on this functionality, that is building a UI layout and adding some basic customizations to it. So if we let me divide it into two parts. Okay, so the left part is the controls and the UI, and the right side part is the display. The right side part is the preview the preview part. Okay, so coming to the left side part, let us focus here first. So here we have a tab. That tab name is sidebar. Okay, so inside that we have a nested tab to that. So those are header, primary and secondary. These three are tabs. So in sprint one we are not focusing on the content, what should be there in these tabs, but what we are trying to keep there is we'll just keep some text, so that way it won't look empty. Okay, so yep, we focus here basically on the tabs and some nested tabs, and to the right side we have a mobile app like preview. Okay, you can understand by this it looks like mobile, right? So here we have three divisions, that is header, and one is primary and one is secondary. Okay, so basically this is a menu. This is header menu, primary menu, and this is secondary menu. Okay, what will be the header menu, what will be inside the primary menu, what will be inside the secondary menu, we'll focus on another sprints, which is not necessary right now, but we'll focus on another sprints. Okay, so to build this layout, what we have done is we had implemented a small building block with which they can use that building block and they can build this layout on that building block. Okay, now let us go and look at that building block, what we have implemented and all. Okay, yes, this is a building block which we had made for them. So here sidebar is a tab, and inside that we have a nested tabs, that is header, primary and secondary. If you observe, these are the same tabs which we have seen here. Okay, so coming back to this, and also we have implemented a small text item, that is menu text, and if you see here, your menu text will appear here. So means it makes sense that if we write something, it is going to appear here. Okay, let us write something, menu. Okay, so the left side is all about controls, the right side is all about preview. Okay, so rest of the dashboard, rest of the UI, everything is static. We don't have any functionalities for them, but we do have one functionality here, that is the modes. If we click on the dark mode, everything in the UI will respond based on the dark mode, and if we click on light mode, everything in the UI will display based on the mode which is selected. Okay, yep, so far we have understood what they are going to do in sprint one and what is the building block we are going to give them. Okay, now let us discuss the overall system diagram of the navigation builder module. So basically this is the main entry of this navigation builder module. For this main module we have to pass three props, that is package type, role and is authenticated flag. Package type is nothing but what is the package of user, whether either it is premium or basic. Role is nothing but what is the role of the user, whether it is just user role or admin role. Okay, and is authenticated is a flag to check whether the user is authenticated or not. Okay, so inside this navigation builder module we have two components, that is NB display controller. NB means navigation builder, and NB preview. So display controller is responsible for user actions. and NB preview is responsible to preview the user actions in live. Okay, this is, for example, let us take an example. So cricketers will, while cricketers are playing the cricket, the scores will be updated in the television, right? So in such a way that cricketers are the persons who are inside the display controller, and television is something like NB preview, which displays the scores. Okay, so coming to this NB display controller, inside this first block, we'll use this NBM, use NBM state. It is just a custom hook which establishes the communication between the NB display controller and the state management. This is the state management. So first of all, before going dive into this NB display controller, okay, let us understand what is state management first. State management is a centralized store where user can store data or retrieve data or update the data. That's all. So what NB display controller does is it will just update the data and it will just get the data from the state management using this hook. Okay, I'm sorry, my bad. So coming to this use effect hook. Inside this use effect hook, we have three major functions, that is get allowed NB features, get NB controls, and generate NB controls and generate NB subcontrols. So by the name itself, we can understand that we are getting some allowed navigation builder features. What do you mean by allowed? So if we see the above step, whatever we have written here, it fetches allowed features and controls based on role, package, and is authenticated. Okay, suppose let us assume a case whether user is not authenticated. It will just return back. If user is authenticated, then only we'll fetch these features, controls, and subcontrols. Okay, now let us understand a bit more deep about this get allowed NB features. Where is this getting the features from? Okay, so basically this get allowed NB features is getting the features from NB features handler. So how? We need to pass something, right? As I told, we are bringing only the allowed features. So on what basis? Package and the role, right? So that is why we are sending package and role as the props to this NB feature handler. So okay, we passed the props to NB feature handler. So what is it doing? So if you see here, check if each feature in NB feature config. So what is this NB feature config? This is the NB feature config. NB feature config, it is just a JSON file which has the data where respective features are mapped to respective package and roles. Okay, so this feature handler will parse through these NB feature config based on the package and the role, and it will add that feature to the results list. Okay, so finally, after checking all the features based on packages and role, it will create a list, and what it will do is it will return that list to the display controller. Okay, now we got the features. What about the controls? For each feature, we'll have some set of controls. Okay, like let me show you in the demo perspectives. For sidebar, there is a sidebar, there is a feature. Okay, so for this feature we have some controls, that is header, primary, and secondary. Okay, so now we got the feature as sidebar. Now we need the controls, that is header, primary, and secondary. So we have to generate those NB controls. To generate the controls, we need to pass the feature too, because as I mentioned that for particular feature we have to get the we have to display the controls, we have to generate the controls, that is header, primary, secondary. Okay, coming back to this. Okay, fine, we got the features and we are going to generate the controls. For that, this NB control handler is responsible to generate the controls. On what basis it will generate the controls? It will generate the controls based on the features, package and the role. So at the same time, like the NB feature handler, the functionality is pretty much same for NB feature handler and NB control handler. It will parse to this NB control config based on the respective feature, respective role and package. It will create a list of controls and it will return the list of controls. Okay, for each control we have subcontrols again. Okay, in the same way, like we pass the features to controls to generate the controls, now we have to pass the controls to generate the subcontrols. Okay, so now to generate subcontrols, this NB subcontrol handler is responsible for that. So on what basis? This is also generating the subcontrols based on the package, role and the controls. So finally, like NB control handler and NB feature handler, this NB subcontrol handler also will pass through this NB subcontrol config and it will generate the list of the subcontrols, what to render, and it will pass the list to the display controller. Finally, after a long process, we got the features array, controls array and the subcontrols array. We'll use this hook and we'll update that in the state management. Okay, now we have to pass this. We got the feature list, we got the subcontrols list, we got the controls list. We need to render that, right? Else what will we do with the same? What will we do with just and single array? So to render the features, we have the feature controller, NB feature controller. To render the subcontrols and controls, we have this NB controls controller. Okay, so let me tell you briefly what is this feature controller. This feature controller is responsible to render the features, and this NB controls controller is responsible to render the controls and the subcontrols. Okay, now let us dive deep into this NB feature controller. So we got the features array, right? So what it is doing is it is rendering the features in the form of tabs. Okay, and coming to this controls, NB control controller, it is rendering tabs, and for each tab it is rendering the content based on for the respective control. Let me tell you clearly. In the demo we have sidebar, right? This is a feature, and this is a tab, and this is displaying in the form of, this is rendering in the form of tab based on this. Okay, and coming to this, here also we have a tabs that those are controls. Okay, so in our case, in our demo, header, primary and secondary, these are three tabs, right? So these are controls. So this UI is rendered using this tab. Okay, now we got the tabs. What about the content? We are also getting the subcontrols, right? Here we are also getting the subcontrols. Here this part we are also getting the subcontrols. We rendered the features, we rendered the controls. Now the only thing which is left is the subcontrols, which we are not focusing in sprint 1, but I am going to tell you something. So this is a tab. Suppose let us assume that header tab is selected. Okay, so all it should do is it should render a subcontrol of the header, that is just print header component, just display header component. We are inside header component. If user clicked on primary, just display primary component instead of header. Okay, yep, that is what this part of the block is maintaining. It'll render the component dynamically. Okay, basically if you study this, renders the appropriate subcontrol based on the currently active tab. Currently active tab means it is a currently active control. Okay, if there is no subcontrol available for the respective control, then it will just display simply that we don't have any subcontrol. Okay, this is what about the controllers and the central hub and the handlers. To understand this NB preview and the state management, let us dive through this feature specific diagram. So in the demo, we have been discussing about this menu text component. Let me show you that again, and I'll come back here again. Okay. So this is what the menu text I'm speaking about. So if I got, so it is getting displayed here, right? So now let us take this feature and let us understand how this feature is displaying the menu text in the live preview. Okay. Okay, if you enter something in the menu text component, if user interacts with menu text component, interaction means user is just writing inside that input box. Okay, it dispatches an action that is set NB menu text with a payload data of new text. Okay, to what? To reducer. Inside the reducer, we got an action, right? It will check what is the type of action. If it is set NB menu text, it will update the menu text value. And after that, the global context updates the context with new global state, whatever we got. And the controller components renders the subcontrols dynamically. Okay, and after that, how this preview component is displaying the menu text value. Okay, so inside the preview component, we are using this hook, use NBM state hook. Okay, to get the updated text and renders it automatically. That way, if user is entering anything in the menu text component, we are able to see in the preview component. So if you see here, this menu text is a subcontrol. Let us assume that user interacted with this. Okay, what we are doing is we are dispatching an action. We are dispatching an action to, it should be to reducer actually. Okay, we are dispatching an action to reducer. From reducer, the state is updated. Using this use NBM state hook inside this NBM preview, we are dynamically rendering the menu text value. Before rendering, basically we have to use NCM state hook to extract the state actually, to extract the value first. Then only we can render the menu text value. So far we have understood the overall system diagram of navigation builder module and what are they going to do in sprint 1 and the building block what we are going to give them for this sprint 1. Okay, hope you enjoyed this session. That's all for this.